Hello everybody, my name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, robot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be talking about romance and how you're doing it wrong. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do on this channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. Number one way is through lmfao, which is the monthly prompt contest here on the channel, where I give you a prompt, you answer the prompt with a short story that fits the perimeters, send it in, and then first Monday video of the month, we read the prompts together, and they are so fun. Number two is if you're an indie author and you've got a book out there or a book that's coming out, just send your first chapter in and your cover, and they will be read at random on all of the other Mondays. That's not the first one. And hopefully it'll help more readers find your book, find your content, and what exactly they are looking for in some tasty, delicious, fresh meat fiction. The other thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books for any reason, hopefully for good reason, for fun times, for wholesome love, actual wholesome love, they're available wherever you get your books. Hopefully you have a good time reading them. I am so excited to share so many things at the moment. I am having a personal high. Don't come to me tomorrow, because don't come to me in like 3 hours, where I will probably be having a personal low. But for now, we're going to be like, Okay, so with that said, let's get into the topic of the day, which is romance tropes that are toxic. And in some of them, how they're actually twisted from positive things into negative things. Because I don't know if it's from reading Lace and Leather and Potato Shifter and The Wild and all of this other disgusting, absolutely abhorrent stuff. But you know what, you guys, I gotta tell you, many of you are degenerates, and today we are kink shaming. So, if you don't like your romance tropes to be highlighted for what they are, this is probably not the video for you. And let me straight up say it, that my opinions on these romance tropes are probably the less popular opinion of them all, because these are all very popular tropes in romance specifically. So just so you know, I'm going to be sharing my opinion on these. That is what this is, my judgment on these and what my preferences are, which hopefully then also come through with the way that I write, because I tend to write not like this. But I am kink shaming today, and I am kink shaming all of you that do these things. So number one, romance trope that you're doing wrong because you've made it toxic: protecting your partner, who they talk to, and possessiveness. You see this very commonly in not just romance books, but it's in YA books, it's in YA fantasy books that have a high romance element. You see this very constantly, where the love interest is not just protective of the partner, but it goes to the point of protecting the partner that they are possessive. They got to make sure you don't talk to the wrong people. They got to make sure that they know who are your friends, who all of your friends are. Possibly they're stalking you. And it goes to the level of you are now basically their possession. And I know that this is a kink. Yes, I am kink shaming you, because this is a toxic version of a romantic and healthy relationship. It is fine to want to protect your partner. It is natural to want to protect your partner. And get ready for me to I have this very emotional, spiritual version of love and romance. And so that comes into the way that I interpret romance and love. It doesn't come into necessarily every one of my characters, because I do have characters that just have promiscuous sex, but it does come into my interpretation of relationships and the value of sex. So be prepared for that, because this is how I think of these things, which doesn't really work a lot with the romance tropes. But it is normal. You will see this in the way that I write romances, though, or that I write relationships, really, because most of the time the way that I write relationships is through developed relationships. There will be meeting, Jan and Blake meet each other, but immediately Jan wants to make it a long-term relationship, because that's just how he is. But that's getting off onto an adjacent point. It is normal for somebody to want to protect their partner, because in my eyes, once you created that fellowship with that other person, that romantic relationship, that emotional relationship, that spiritual relationship, that other person is the other half of your soul. And so anything that somebody else does is a violation of their soul. It's a violation of your soul. It's a violation of you together. And I'm talking about like legitimate abuse. I'm talking about like physical abuse or emotional abuse or sexual abuse or harassment or any of these things is actually a violation of you, whether you are male or female, because you two are one. And that is why it is so offensive. That person means so much to you. That person has so much value, which is why you are driven to protect them from danger. But you take this to an extreme when it's checking out who all they're talking to, stalking them to make sure they don't go to or talk to anybody that they shouldn't talk to. And that is going far beyond the protectiveness that is appropriate for a romantic and spiritual partner, and turns it more into this domineering thing that is just, it's toxic. It's diminutive of what a partnership actually is, because now you're staking ownership over the other person and getting to choose who they're allowed to interact with, where they're allowed to go, forcing them into being the subservience of what you want them to be. And personally, I think the partnership angle, the other half of the soul angle, is better, because you're connecting on that other level. You're offering something to them and they're offering something back, and you are equal. You're not the same, but you're equals to one another. You're offering, this is probably going to come out the strongest in the relationship that is Marky and Ralph, because their whole thing is being soulmates and the other half of the other person. And I'm much more subtle in like every other way that I think I've written this, but they are like the pair. And it's magical. But I love the protectiveness, and I see this also with, this is going to be a silly comparison here too, but like also with the Yakuza characters that we got stuff going on. Obviously, you've got Mr. Strongman over here, the Majima, the Nishiki, the Kiryu, but they're not going to let anybody violate their partner. That is a violation of the soul. That is a violation of the person, an extension of themselves, not in a possessive way, because it's the same way if the females feel like their husbands or their boyfriends are being violated by others. It is something that's a little more difficult to describe than to be able to show in text, I think, because it's a lot of little things, and it's the way that you connect with that other person and the way that you respect that other person, instead of treating them like a possession, a belonging, something that you can lease out, or something that can just, where there's no investment and there's no respect. It is just a possession, and I'm not really into that. I know that a lot of you are. I have read your fiction. I am not into that. Number 2 is the acts of service / can't do anything for yourself. This kind of becomes, this kind of comes often with the possessiveness, where I know it's in a lot of books where you've got the domineering man and then the subservient woman that comes into this situation. Think of your Christian Greys, where it's like you're doing everything to protect that person, but now also acts of service is a great language of love. It is actually, and it is a legitimate language of love, where people want to show that they care about somebody by doing things for them. And they can also tend to feel more loved if they're spoken to in that language where things are being done for them. Again, I'm going to reference Ralph because one of his big languages of love is acts of service. I think one of Joey's is also acts of service, because she's always doing things for the people that she loves. But you can take this too far when you get into the Christian Grey territory, or you get into the other abusive captor situation territories, where they want to do everything for you, where you need to not think about setting the temperature of your shower because he'll do it for you, where you need not think about making your bed because he'll do it for you, where you need not think about wiping your own ass because he'll do it for you. And there is a toxic level where it is no longer doing things for you out of love and then having things done back for you in return, when it's instead doing everything for you to pamper you so that you are kind of infantilized, or again, you're a possession to be taken care of, as opposed to having expressions of love that come naturally. And I think when you get to that level where you're doing literally everything for the person, and it's not this observation of giving and then receiving because of that language of love, it actually becomes an obsession, which is toxic. Let the person be an individual. Number 3 is gift giving by abusers after abuse. So gift giving is another language of love, where people will show that they care about others or show their love through giving gifts, and then often will feel the most loved through receiving gifts because that is their language of love. If you're not aware of the 5 languages of love that are out there, there are, you can You can look them up, but the 5 languages are gift giving, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and words of encouragement. And so you can scale them. You can have some more than others and others more than whatever. But often this is how you express how you love somebody, if you love somebody. And it's super helpful to know how your partner or your loved ones express themselves, because then if you're having issues of feeling unloved or they're feeling unloved, but you're feeling like you're telling them that you love them, it may just be a disconnect. Like I know people that don't accept or don't realize or understand that my gift is, or my language of love is acts of service, where theirs is quality time. But if I don't spend quality time with them, then they don't necessarily feel loved, and it can become an issue with familial relationships, especially if you talk in one way and they are not cognizant of how you communicate. But there's that. That's getting into a side tangent. But that's what I mean by languages of love and gift giving. Often, again, with the possessiveness characters and with the acts of service characters, you also often have the gift giving characters. Again, we're going to get into Christian Grey because 50 Shades of Grey kind of spun off a whole lot of mimicked romances with these toxic tropes. And the gift giving romance abusive thing is like abusing your partner and then taking them on an expensive trip to make up for it, as if giving that expensive gift makes up for the mistreatment that you have done. And this happens not just in these extravagant things where you're going, on an out-of-country trip or a helicopter ride or whatever, but it can happen with like beating your spouse, and then you come back and you've got this bouquet and these chocolates and whatever it is that you think will make up for that thing. And then you just continue the cycle where you don't actually get better. You abuse your partner and you bring a gift, and that is not healthy. But that is constantly what happens. Look at 50 Shades of Grey, as that was my example for this. And it happens in a lot of these abusive romance, toxic, dark romances, dark relationships, and not even just in the dark relationships. You end up with these in like the YA fiction, the YA romances, where the characters constantly get into fights and then they make up by somebody having some strong gesture, and that apparently fixes the thing until the next time that character abuses them. And it constantly just creates a cycle of abuse, gift, forgiveness, abuse, gift, forgiveness, abuse, gift, forgiveness, instead of actually working that out, talking as partners, and dealing with the issue and seeing each other as equals, companions, partners. It's weak. The number 4 romance, but you're doing it wrong, is I can't actually talk to you about anything level of miscommunication trope. This is an evolution of I want something, but I won't say that I want something, and then I'll get mad at you because you didn't do the thing that I wanted you to do that I didn't tell you that I wanted. It can also appear in the form of I want sex, but I won't tell you that I want sex while you're banging me, so it looks like rape, but I really do want it. And that is also a very common thing. For some reason, lack of communication in relationships is insanely popular in romance storylines, relationships, and I'm not entirely sure why. Also, the level of I don't want it, but I actually do want it is strangely high. I know that rape fantasies are very, very high among certain demographics, but it's also just insane to me how popular I don't want it, but I do want it is. Just talk to your partner. It's not that hard. Number 5 is that sex is the end goal rather than the outcome of an emotional expression. So you kind of get this sense of how I feel about sex and relationships from the way that I talked about it back with possessiveness and protecting your partner and point of 1. But I believe rather than sex being the end game, the end goal, I'll get into it in a second with how this ruins a storyline, but I think that sex, rather than being the end goal, should actually just be the byproduct or the outcome of an emotional and spiritual connection and expression that 2 people have. It's natural to want to be closer to your partner. It's natural to want a deeper, stronger relationship and to connect on that other level, that spiritual level with that person when you are in the most vulnerable way that you can be in this special thing. And personally, I think that a lot of society has devalued what sex is and what it means and how it affects your soul when you're doing it. And this is going to sound super janky, especially to people that see sex as a pastime or that don't see that value on sex. And, that's your bag. But this is my interpretation of these romance tropes and how romance is treated and how sex is treated. And I think that this is a disgrace to relationships. And the only thing that this does when it's put in books, as I've just gone through it again with freaking Leather and Lace, and I went through it with Guns and Smoke, and I go through it all the time. I don't know why. It's in all of these books, and it's such a waste of time. It's this blue balling, because the end goal of the book is the characters having sex and getting together. So obviously going through the entirety of the book, they have to really, really want each other, because what other kind of tension are you going to have? How else are you going to cause tension how else are you going to cause tension or drive or desire besides having these characters constantly thirsting about each other and wanting each other, but you can't give it to them until the end of the book because it's the end goal. The literal climax is the actual climax of the novel, instead of being a byproduct of marrying these characters' emotions. So then from the start of the book, looking at you, Guns and Smoke, looking at you, the follow-up of Guns and Smoke, looking at all of you other romance novels, is the end goal is the sex. So they immediately start off with that sexual thirst and lust that pushes them through everything. It's the only thing that keeps them together is how much they want to bang each other, but how they keep getting interrupted with the circumstances that arise that keep them from being able to have sex, or the constant bickering or misunderstanding so they can't get together, but it only lasts 1 or 2 chapters until it swaps and now the other one is mad at the other one. Or even in the same scene, you'll have this person being mad at this person, the understanding is cleared up, but then this person says something contradictory to what they said like 2 minutes ago, because you can't have these characters getting along and figuring it out because you wouldn't be able to stop them because of how much thirst you've given this fucking character. When sex is the end goal, it devalues what sex is for the characters doing it. It sullies the soul, in my opinion, and it weakens what it is. And I think that there is this obsession with spice and sex in fiction that makes all of it pointless. So it's constantly creating this desire for more and more and more extreme sex and kinky sex and weird stuff because it's all so shallow. Brian Masters has a quote from his book, Killing for Company. It's a book about Des Nelson, a serial killer from the UK. And he said, sex in its natural place is like a signature at the end of a letter. Written on its own, it's less than nothing. Signatures are easy to sign. Good letters are far more difficult. The entirety of a book, the entirety of a relationship is that good letter that you're trying to write. And you're going to do the signature at the end to show the power, the palpableness of that relationship, the emotional, the spiritual, the loving, all of it. And personally, I can't stand the really shallow sex because the relationship is always shallow in portrayal when the end goal is just to have sex. At least from the experiences I have had with reading books where that is the main thing. Number 6, inability to control self equals passion. This kind of goes in with number 5. The next couple of points I feel like are all byproducts of treating sex like the end goal because it is so shallow. And also be prepared that this is me not just ranting, but coping with having read Lace and Leather the last couple of days. It has been damaging, let me tell you that much. So number 6, the inability to control self equaling passion or love. No. So it's the animalistic thing. It's the animalistic thing where everything is just carnal and destructive. And number 7 is going to go right into this as well. But you had it in both Lace and Leather and Guns and Smoke, where these characters were unable to control themselves around the other person. And you see this in all sorts of romance novels where the main thing is these characters getting together, where they see the other person and they're like, I cannot control myself. I need to be with this person. I can't even think past. It's basically like they are sex maniacs. They are sex addicts and they can't say no to their urges. They're no longer people. They're just body parts being driven to mush together. And I'm just going to mush all of these extra points into this because the inability to control self falls into all of the rest of what these problems are, like violence equaling passion. Again, you see it so often in these books. Looking at you, Lace and Leather. I told you these last couple of points are like all coping with Lace and Leather. The swollen lips, everything is bruising, forcing somebody around, throwing somebody up against a shelf constantly. All of the sex, all of it is violent. Violence is not passion. Violence is a type of kinky sex, sure, but it is not equitable to passion. You can have insane passion with very gentle or loving touches. But there's a confusion, it feels like, in these books that focus on sex as the end game, that think passion equals violence. Passion equals throwing people up against things. Passion equals an inability to control yourself instead of passion being the serving, passion being the cherishing, passion being the loving, passion being the drive to be with that person, to do things with and for that person, and sex being the extension of that desire to be with and do things for that person. You can be attracted to your partner, but lusting after this person, especially someone that you're not with, is not the same thing. It was it was frankly disgusting to me that these characters in this book had sex. They've been lusting after each other the whole time. They had sex, and then one of them said, "I love you," and immediately it's like the dude's cock twitched. Can we have a tender moment? Just one tender moment that isn't about somebody's cock, that isn't about coming, that isn't about the lust and the sexual drive, where there is something more to this relationship than where to put a dick? Because that's what all of this is coming down to, which is why I'm ranting now. Furthermore, leaning into the inability to control oneself, the violence, the lusting, the cock twitching, and literally just she walks in the room. Oh, we got to talk about his cock. We got to talk about his cock because that's true love, bitches. Going along with all of these ill-mannered, ill takes on love, you've got claiming / public claiming / making her scream / making everybody in the house witness or participate in your exhibitionism. Both Lace and Leather and the first book, Guns and Smoke, had this heavy lean into exhibitionism, where they were doing things in front of people without the consent of the people around them. It was touching people while walking through public spaces. It was having sex or getting busy in front of a 10-year-old constantly, to the point that he was like, you know what? I'm not disgusted by you guys kissing anymore. Oh, great. You have successfully groomed a child. At least he wasn't in the second book to have to witness this again. But like, I don't understand. And I know that it's a kink, so I can at least say that. I understand it's a kink. But constantly having to have other people be witness to your sexual passion tells me that it is not passion. It is a kink. It is part of your sexual dysfunction, your sexual expression, something like that, that people need to hear you, that you can't have a private moment with you and your loved one and it just be you and intimate and sweet. It has to be heard by the entire fucking house. Again, this also goes back to the inability to control oneself, because you have to do it in a closet. You have to just jackhammer somebody until they are screaming so loud it's filling the house. There were so many times in these books that also included just being in a public space and being like, you know how much I want to bend you over this table and fuck you in front of everybody, because animalistic urges. It is not passion. It is kink. It is possessiveness. And maybe that is your kink. Yes, I'm kink shaming you because I want wholesome. I want love to come back. I am getting so sick, and I think that's probably why my tolerance for this stuff is actually going down, because I keep getting exposed to the stuff that is just completely disgusting to me. It is dripping with degeneracy. It is dripping with shallowness. There is no feeling, no love, no passion. It is just the cheapest version of sex possible, and it is literally disgusting to my soul. I don't know. People don't talk about this because you're not supposed to say anything negative about sex. You're not supposed to say anything negative about sexual expression or sexual freedom. Look, you do your thing, but why can't I talk about what my preferences are, which are not this dirty, nasty sex that includes other people having to listen to you, that includes other people having to watch you, that includes this sexual humiliation and degradation all the time. Which again goes into, that's also not a thing, is it's not love just because everybody around you is asking you or your partner whether you had sex or not, whether you or your cheering you or your partner on because they're guessing that you had sex. That's not anything. It's not anything either to show passion. It's not passion either to go up to somebody's partner and be like, I almost fucked your partner last night. That's how much I care about him more than you. Yes, that was in Leather and Lace, where one of the main females who we're told is supposed to be acting with the world and kindness and grace, she goes up to somebody's boyfriend and says, I almost fucked your boyfriend last night. How's that feel, bitch? Not in those words, but she does say, I almost fucked your boyfriend against the kitchen counter. How does that feel? So yeah, going into the obligatory cheating isn't cute. Cheating isn't passion. Being like, I couldn't hold myself back because even though I'm in a relationship, I couldn't think to control my body. I just had to be with you. It was so strong. You're a human. And this again, like, I have a hard time understanding cheating, aside from obviously my personal issues with it. If you've given your soul to another person, if you have combined, you are one person. And sex is the extension of your relationship with that other person, the combination of that soul, then how is it that you can just see another person and be like, this isn't a violation of my partner by doing this to them? This isn't a violation of that person and their partner by me lusting after them. How can you be like, this is totally fine? And I have to bring this up specifically because Leather and Lace, let's just throw more nasty stuff in there. Both of the main couples in there got into relationships they chose to be in. And then they cheated on their partners because they were more passionate about somebody else, or they were using that other person, or they weren't serious and they didn't break it off. With Bonnie, it was she went into that relationship because she couldn't be bothered, apparently, to talk to Jesse about the misunderstanding or that she lied to him, and was like, I'm just going to run into this other guy's arms. Well, you're literally lying to that guy. You're mad at Jesse for lying to you for even less than what you're lying to that guy for, because you're about to go and marry him. And then you're at your own engagement party and you're fucking your ex. And you're like, this is fine. Or you've got with Will Ellis and Savannah, where Will Ellis gets with his boyfriend who's been pining after him for all this time. And Will Ellis, somewhere in the middle of the book there, goes, I'm going to give this a real shot because this guy believes in me and he thinks that I can be a better person than I am. And I want to believe that I'm a better person than I am. So you get with that person and immediately you're already lusting after Savannah because you've been lusting after her since before you got with Sebastian, but you didn't fully ever commit to Sebastian. You just told him that you were all in. And so then you lust after Savannah to the point that now you're demonizing the person that is your boyfriend because he doesn't want you to be cheating on him. Who Savannah goes and then Savannah goes and taunts because you kissed her while you're in a relationship with Savannah. And so she's throwing it in your boyfriend's face and you're not talking to your boyfriend about it. And then you kill your boyfriend. And then you have sex with the woman that you cheated on him with on your boyfriend's grave. Like, this is depravity. This is not love. This is not passion. This is not the combination of two souls. This is just disgusting lust. And then don't tell me in the narrative that this is love. It is not love. It is a misunderstanding of love. It is purposeful misunderstanding of love. So yeah, here we are. I'm just ranting about sex, the disgust of sex, the way that sex is being treated in modern culture, in modern writing, in books, and I want to see not this stuff. And that is why I'm writing stuff that's not like this. But my soul is damaged, I feel like. I'm having less and less tolerance for seeing just random gross sex and violations like this everywhere. But they are everywhere. So again, like I said at the beginning of the video, yes, I'm kink shaming you, but I also understand that my opinions are not the popular opinions because all of these things are insanely popular in romance and erotica. And if that's you, that is you. But I'm going to be a voice speaking for the wholesome who is kind of done with this stuff. Who is kind of done with seeing this stuff, where it even just sneaks into things, where people want to expose you to this stuff by lying to you about what a book is about. People want to sneak this stuff into you. I've seen it so many times too, where people are like, I want to find the clean romance or the Christian romance or the YA where there's not supposed to be smut, and I want to put the most depraved thing in there. I don't know if people know what healthy relationships look like anymore, to be honest with you. But this is where we are. So I write what I like, pissing people off today by saying my opinions on sex and relationships and how I don't like these tropes. You are free to do you. This is in no way telling anybody what to do, but with all of the stuff out there that celebrates the sexual promiscuity and the lack of connection and the lust and the violence and the hardcore sex and the kink, I just wanted to be a voice going in the opposite direction, saying that I think sex is something special. I think it's something special between two people. I think that it's a special thing with your soul that creates this bond unlike anything else. And that I think when you have promiscuous sex, it's actually damaging to your soul because I think there's more meaning than it's being given. But you are free to disagree as I disagree with you. And those are my thoughts. Let me know what yours are down in the comments below. Yes, I was heated. I am still just coming down from having read Leather and Lace. You think it can't get worse than exposing a 10-year-old child? At least I can give that to Leather and Lace. It kept the child out of this book so he did not have to be party to all of the lust. So there's that. Congratulations for not exposing a child to the sex. The bar was low, but then we had to get two cheaters. I don't understand how this is sexy. I cannot see how violent, impassioned, cannot control yourself, cheating on your spouse immediately is a good thing. But oh well. That said, thank you everybody for watching. Have a great day. Protect your souls, protect your life. Have a great weekend. Don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out? The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross. Is he in trouble? We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him. Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Way. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?